Hi and welcome everyone to our 62nd episode of The Little Inside. Amazingly, my name is still Tobi. Can you believe it? This week I'm going to talk a little bit about how to choose a self skillfully. So let's get started right after the intro. Did you know that your personality, who you think you are, who you feel that you are, is a product of conditioning? It's a product of upbringing. It's a product of the media, the things that you frequently consume. And it's a product of your past, the steps that you've made so far in your life. It all created this sense of me. And this sense of me, since it is a product, since it is caused, it is a flexible entity. So it's not really necessary to consider it a fixed, static sense of self. In fact, considering it to be a fixed or static sense of self would actually be wrong, because it's a very dynamic thing. The way you felt when you were 5 years old, for example, is not the way you feel now about yourself. The way you felt about yourself last week is not the way that you feel about yourself now. With every little bit of information that is added to yourself, to your personality stream, to your consciousness stream, there is more complexity, of course, and more development in your personality. It becomes more and more, well, not necessarily, but it becomes more and more refined for some people. For other people, it becomes more coarse. It becomes more, for some people, it's more of a happy type personality, pleasurable personality. For other people, it's more of a personality that creates a whole lot of suffering, both for themselves and others. There's all kinds of different personalities. And so today I'm here to share absolutely amazing news with you. It might not be news. You might have heard it before. You might have seen the information before that. You might have even realized it for yourself. But I think it's such an amazing thing that our personality is not a fixed thing, and it is a product of conditioning. Why would I say that this is amazing? Well, it's really simple, because everything that is conditioned can be conditioned, right? So that means that you can basically choose who you want to be. You're not a fixed entity that let's say, some people, they feel, oh, I'm such a failure. They always feel about themselves that they're a failure. Other people, they feel, I'm always very lucky. I'm experiencing good luck wherever I go. That is not really the truth. Even though it works for them, it's not an absolute kind of truth. Since the personality is a very flexible thing, it basically arises out of the way you habitually think and feel. You could also say that the personality comes from the way you have learned to think, or the way that you have been conditioned to think and feel about yourself. And for many people, this can be a big obstacle in their life. We are very often our own worst enemies. We're constantly in our own way. And it's through the way that we think about ourselves. We are thinking ourselves into a certain type of reality. Who you think you are is just that, isn't it? It's who you think you are. And thought is not a very solid kind of substance. It's something rather ethereal or insubstantial. And you could change it, right? But then it's not just about changing your thoughts, it's also about believing in your new mindset. Let's say you want to change from thinking, oh, I'm such a failure, I'm always having trouble in my life, and all the bad luck is happening to me, to I'm a person that recognizes wonderful opportunities every day. So at first, this will feel like a lie, doesn't it? Feels like, nah, that's not who I am, right? I'm a failure. I'm not someone that has success. Nobody likes me. So you change that to thinking that people will easily find things about me that they like. Nah, because there is nothing that what's likable about me, right? And the problem with such personalities, they're so deeply entrenched. Like every cell of your body is vibrating with this information that has received for many, many years, sometimes decades. Like I'm an unlikable person, or I'm a failure, I can never do this. In my own case, to give you my own example, for years I thought that I'm not good at meditation. That I'm constantly practicing, knowing with every cell of my being that I'm not good at this. That I basically suck at meditation, I can't do it. And still I'm teaching it, and oh my God, I'm teaching it, but I'm so bad at it. Compared to all these amazing enlightened masters in my fantasy, right? Amazing enlightened masters, they're all up there. I'm just nothing. I'm just so bad at this. How could I teach you guys anything? And so feeling like this all the time about myself, not realizing that I'm my own worst enemy with this. And of course, it's like a placebo effect. That kind of thought, that kind of personality, the Tobi that is unable to do a proper meditation, it works. And the problem is that I'm right. And you are right. With who you think you are always right. Whatever you think, yes, you're right. If you're believing in it, in that moment, you're right. And as you are right with your beliefs, they start to work. And then you will find other people that support these beliefs. Life has its way to kind of resonate with your belief systems, with your thought systems. It brings you things that fit in your little box perfectly. And brings you those things over and over and over again. And then people think, why do I keep getting these stupid things? Why do they keep happening to me all the time? That's probably because I'm a failure. It must be because I'm a failure that these things keep happening to me. See, there's another problem. And so we keep going like this. In our attention, that what we pay attention to, where does that come from? It comes from the personality that seeks a certain nutrition. And as I mentioned in the previous video, that our attention is seeking nutrition. It's seeking something to feed on. And our personality, what we feel about ourselves, who we feel to be, we are seeking something to feed into that. So basically, most of our lives, we're kind of confirming our sense of self. That's all we do. That's what we mentally constantly do, confirming our sense of self. Now, before going into not self, and the deep states of enlightenment and completely letting go into not self and all that, I think it would be really, really important to create a wholesome sense of self. And that's what this video is essentially about. So since our character or our personality mostly runs on autopilot, it's important to become mindful of the way we habitually think and feel, first of all. That kind of can give you an indication, like, how's my personality like? Is it in my own way? Is it in the way of happiness? Let's say it like this. Is it in the way of happiness and benefit? Or is it supporting long-term happiness and benefit? In other words, do I lead myself out of the thicket of suffering? Or do I get myself more entrenched in problematic self-views? This is difficult to determine in the beginning but I think it becomes a bit more easy to look at the way you feel. When you look at the way you feel predominantly, this is a good indication. How do you maneuver? How do you handle yourself? What kind of self, what do you think about yourself? Who are you? And how do you seek confirmation? Become aware of that. What kind of confirmation do I continuously seek in life? These are situations that continuously happen to you, like every day. Thoughts that happen to you every day. Feelings that happen to you every day. Interactions with other people, topics that happen every day. Do you often find yourself to be offended by others? Do you often find yourself to be attacked in your views? That's a very popular thing nowadays, right? Like everyone is offended about something. It's outrageous. It's incredible. Like how much offense there is online, about whatever topic, this is the new topic to be offended about every day. And so that can be a personality. It can be a sense of me. I am the one who is deeply offended, but how dare you to say this? How can you have such a view? I must fight that view because that's who I am. And I'm feeding my sense of self through this interaction, but I don't notice it. I don't see what's going on. That we're all busy feeding our sense of me and the sense of separation from everyone else. I'm an individual, and this is who I am, and those are the others. Who am I in comparison with those others? It's constantly busy like this, the self to establish itself, right? Now, what kind of self, what kind of character or personality would be the most beneficial, powerful, divine, beautiful personality that you could imagine to be? Let's say you could choose a new sense of self. What would that be? What would you choose? Who would you like to be? Or how would you feel like if you had a choice? How would that being me, how should that feel like, ideally? Give that a good thought. And then add elements that are powerful, like universally powerful for yourself and others. Like, let's say, for example, kindness. Like, if you're leaving out kindness, if you're leaving out compassion, then usually self wants to make itself more grand, right? So if I could choose who I was, then I would surely be famous and rich and powerful and whatever, This is kind of what the self has learned. You can be up there, you can have all the money that you want, and you can be rich and famous and powerful. That's the dream that self has, and it feels always distant from that dream. Oh, I'm not enough, not good enough. I must do more, I must be more. That's the misery of self that most of us are conditioned into. But what if you would choose something like, I am kind, and I have the ability to be kind to absolutely everyone and everything. Where I go, there is peace. Where I go, this is where conflict ends. When bad news come to me, that's where they end. That's where they turn into good news. I'm talking about these kind of powerful, almost you can say divine, the divine sense of self, to actually cultivate that. And now here's what's important. This is not to be taken out, to be shown to other people. Like, here's how divine I am. Don't you notice my radiant light? Don't you notice just how kind I am? It's not one of those things. This is not for ego to become more grand. This is for kindness, to have a chance to operate more through you, if you're letting go of all these states of mind which are in the way of it. So you're basically opening up, having such a sense of self, For example, I am a manifestation of kindness. Kindness is naturally flowing through me. It's not me doing this, it's kindness expressing itself through me. Can you feel like this? Can you think like this about yourself? Can you cultivate actively a personality that allows for spiritual progress rather than being in your own way, feeling, oh, I suck at meditation, I'm not good at this? Cultivate something that's a bit more meaningful, like, I'm really good at this. Can you feel that you're really good at this? Can you feel that you're enjoying your meditation? Well, then dwell on it. Train this kind of personality, and you will attract whatever goes into resonance with such a personality. That's why it's so important to choose our personality really well, because you do have a choice. So this is pretty much all that comes to mind this week. Admittedly, this is such an amazing topic, and I absolutely love it. And there's so much more to be said about it, maybe in another video at some point. But so far, if you do have any questions or you want to write a comment down, write it down in the comment section below. I'm always happy to read your comments. Always happy to see that helps. Or if you do have any questions, please just let us know. Okay, so I hope that you have a wonderful next week, and I'm looking forward to see all of you guys again next Wednesday. Namaste.